ain't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's your boy Ernie, the Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap that notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any of my videos. We're getting really close to 100,000 subscribers as of today. I think we're literally knocking on the door, so dude, we got it. We did it, man. We did it. Like, you it's crazy to say, man, because y'all did it. And also, if you enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button because it really helps the channel out. That said, we're going to be talking about Detective Comics number 1090. And I should go ahead and say right now, spoilers ahead for the issue. That is also written by Tom Taylor with art and colors by Mikhail Janin and letters by Wes Abbott. So this issue, there is something really interesting going on here, and I haven't really been keeping up with everything Detective Comics as of late, but this is a really interesting story to be jumping in on here. But basically, this story plays with the origin of Batman. Now, Batman's origin is probably one of the most well-trodden, most well-worn, and probably over-reiterated origin stories in the history of not just comics, but I would say media as a whole. I don't really know too many people who don't know the history of Batman on some level or another. Even people who are, I won't even say comic book normies, because I feel even comic book normies know Batman's origin, even if they don't like or care about Batman or have ever even read Batman. But I'm talking about people who do not read comics at all. They've never seen Batman the animated series. They've probably never seen any of the Batman animated series. They might have seen a Batman movie here or there, or if it was on TV, they happened to have the TV on and they just let it play out. I would even go as far as say, even someone like you, you're great, like you, Ryan. Yeah, you right there. Yeah, Ryan, I'm talking about you. Your grandma, who could not give two shits about Batman, I promise you, she knows Batman's origin. Probably as good as you do. Like, I'm just saying. I'm sorry, Ryan. I have to pull your nerd card just a little bit. I don't normally like doing this, but yeah, I guarantee you, your grandma knows Batman's origin better than you. And that's kind of my point here with this, is that this issue and what Tom Taylor is doing, he's taking a moment to get a little more cerebral with Batman. This issue is, as you might imagine, it being a Detective Comics issue and not just a typical core Batman issue. We're seeing Batman do the work. He's doing detective work, as is common in this series, is what the series was founded on. But that's not the most interesting thing going on here. Yes, there is a serial killer running around who is taking out young criminals. But the most interesting part of this book, I think, is what they do in regards to Batman's origin, adding more context to that origin and almost kind of, giving me an opportunity to say something that I often say as a joke, but I get to say it here. Thomas Wayne screwed Thomas Wayne. And not only did Thomas Wayne screw himself, he screwed his family and basically set Bruce Wayne up to be an orphan and to have to run around in his pajamas and fight crime. Like, it's kind of funny how that is being played up here. And once again, this isn't the first time we've seen Batman's origin, the death of his parents, recontextualized. This is something that it happens not just with Batman, it's happened with Spider-Man, who also has, I would dare say, an equally as famous origin story as Batman. Same goes for Superman. We've seen this with Wonder Woman, especially recently with Wonder Woman Historia. So yeah, we have seen a lot of this stuff happen, but the thing I find interesting is that the way it is recontextualized is that it doesn't change who, at least so far as we know, it doesn't change who kills Batman's parents. We all know that it was Joe Chill. Joe Chill was a no-name criminal who just so happened to be in the back alley when Bruce's parents were walking him down that way after going to go see Zorro, and he asked for the, he asked for their money, the wallets, the jewelry, everything, and ultimately Bruce's parents get shot. And to take it a step further, one thing we know about Joe Chill as a character is that depending on what continuity you're looking into, like, and I'll just go ahead and say right now, and I've said this before in the past with DC Comics, DC Comics has one of the weirdest continuities out there. Like, I would even dare say weirder than Marvel's. Like, while both Marvel and DC operate on a sliding time scale, one that can really make events and when they took place very wishy-washy at times and maybe a little inconsistent, DC has done a lot worse to its continuity, just in terms of the fact that when this was what, 1984, 85, 86, when Crisis on Infinite Earths came out, all of the previous continuity of DC Comics was kind of like either retconned away or merged into something else to try to make their multiverse and the entire universe as a whole a little bit easier for readers to keep up with. And then later on, we started getting into stuff like Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, and stuff like that. The kind of more Infinite Crisis than Final Crisis, you know, messing with that continuity. Then comes New 52. That messed with, really, New 52, which is a complete and total, like, line-wide relaunch that pretty much pretended none of the prior events of New Earth continuity, which is basically Crisis on Infinite Earth continuity, pretty much made it where none of that stuff ever happened. And then you get from, you know, New 52, you move over into DC Rebirth and so on and so forth. The events of Doomsday Clock happen and basically merge the continuities of New Earth and the New 52 together to create Prime Earth. And point of the matter is, going through all of that, you know, Joe Chill had gone through a lot of changes. Yeah, there was a whole point that he was just a, you know, no-name criminal and spent the rest of his life in prison. And there was a later point we learned that he basically became like a made man, a hired gunman who just went around just killing people indiscriminately, you know, for criminal organizations. And we also would later find out that, you know, it wasn't intentional that he meant to. I mean, to be fair, it was kind of implied it was never intentional. But yeah, basically it was all like just a simple misunderstanding, a mistake or whatever. And then, you know, DC Rebirth happens. A lot of things get switched around, and there's some mental health angles that get drug into it, and you know, there's some social economic commentary in there. But right now, the mental health angle is actually being reworked back into it. You see, Joe Chill apparently was one of Thomas Wayne's patients. And as a patient, Thomas Wayne apparently set free. Like, this guy was clearly touched. He was angered. He was going through some things, and he needed help, treatment. Thomas Wayne had a moment that is actually tied to some events that show up earlier in the book, when a young woman who survives a car crash with her abusive husband / boyfriend, whatever he was, I don't really remember what his relationship was to her outside of the fact that he was literally beating this woman within an inch of her life on a regular basis, that he saved this man's life, despite the fact, knowing ahead of time that this was a guy who was, you know, should he live on, was going to mercilessly abuse, you know, his significant other on a regular basis after the fact. And a criticism comes up, you know, of Thomas Wayne that, you know, yes, you took the Hippocratic Oath. You are gifted as a surgeon. You're able to save lives on tap, like with the snap of your finger. However, you didn't have to save this guy. And there's also a subplot with a child of said victim in this. But I bring all this up just to say that Thomas Wayne clearly takes his job and his Hippocratic Oath very seriously. And at the end of this issue, we see a Thomas Wayne who is been browbeaten enough and been worn down enough by people criticizing how he handled a situation that he seemingly just acts on impulse and doesn't show the same level of care and compassion that, you know, that he showed to a guy who, like I said, mercilessly domestically violates his wife or girlfriend or whatever on a regular basis. He showed it to that guy, and yet here we are. We get to the end of this issue. He sees Joe Chill, clearly disturbed, clearly needing mental help. He chooses to let him go. Writes him off, sends him on his merry little way. And now I think we know why Joe Chill came to get Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne later. It's, I mean, we don't see it happen in this issue, but it just makes it that much more clear. Also, I do want to point out real quick, because it's something that I don't think anyone wouldn't notice this, but it is kind of really tiny, fine print. You can actually see the address for the hospital where Thomas Wayne operates, the Gotham St. Matthew Hospital. And I love the fact that it is on Bill Finger Avenue. Because for those who don't know, Bill Finger was a guy who literally helped create Batman. He's the guy who was responsible for Batman, the way he looks and all the way the villains look as we know them today, whereas Bob Kane took sole credit for it. But no, Bill Finger was the actual brains behind what Batman was ultimately to look like. I highly recommend, if you've never seen the documentary Batman and Bill, I do recommend you see it because it'll teach you a lot about the history of Batman behind the scenes, not in the comics history, obviously, but just like the actual real world history of Batman's creation and what he would or could have potentially been without Bill Finger's involvement, and how this guy, went decades without getting the respect, without getting the accolades, the financial compensation. The guy, I might be overstating this here, but I think it's safe to say this guy died penniless and unknown. And so yeah, I thought it was really cool they did this. It's not to say it's the first time they've actually done little cheeky nods like this to Bill Finger in the past, but like because of that documentary that came out, like I think in 2017, we actually see Bill Finger's name more tied to Batman than we did prior to. It was just Bob Kane alone, nobody else. So I thought that was cool. Nothing to do with the Joe Chill stuff, but I think this is very interesting. And I feel like, as Detective Comics are wont to do, we are going to see this story wrap around to some of the other principal players, but that's not really what I'm here to talk about. It was just the Joe Chill thing that I thought was really cool.